Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Thanks for tuning back in. To all of you that are watching my videos on a regular basis, thank you very much. If you've subscribed to the channel, thank you. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, guys, do that. You get entered into my monthly prize drawings, and we got one coming up here. We do it every month, so I guess we always got one coming up. Anyways, you want to enter into that by subscribing to the channel. If you're watching the videos on a regular basis, there's no reason not to. It just gets you entered into a chance to win some free stuff. So please do that. All right, guys. So we're in the summer months right now, and fishing can be getting tough depending where you're at. But in some places in the country, the fish are starting to get grouped up on some weed lines. Like up here in the northern part of the country, northern half of the country. And one thing that I'll say is, because of the weed lines are getting pounded, sometimes you need to drop down to a finesse style. And I know that sounds weird, because a lot of people would think that when fishing weed lines, it's very much a power fishing strategy. So you're throwing your crankbaits, spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, big worms, jigs. You can kind of make almost anything work when fishing a weed line, but it really comes down to your patience level and how much you're willing to deal with getting your bait stuck and buried in weeds. But I'm a firm believer that if you're willing to make a bait work, you can really get almost any bait to work through grass. But what we're starting to see up here is some of the deeper weed line areas are starting to get pounded really good. They get heavy pressure. It's similar to when fishing a TVA lake. The best ledges get a bunch of pressure, but there's always fish there. And fishing a weed line is similar. We've got areas that just are well-known weed lines that, set up right and the fish use year after year after year. And because of that, though, they get heavily pressured. So for me, one of the best things to do is go into those areas with some finesse tactics. But again, you don't normally think of fishing weeds, deeper weeds or weed lines or weed flats as a finesse tactic area. But again, similar to what I was just saying about making any bait work, you can do the same with your finesse baits and light line. You just have to be willing to deal with the potential you might lose a few extra fish because they got you buried in the weeds, or just dealing with getting stuck on some of your light tackle. But it's a great way to generate additional bites in areas that are heavily pressured. And fishing deep weeds is the same thing. If you've got pressured fish, you can finesse them. So I'm going to show you my favorite baits for finessing fish out of some of these heavily pressured deep weed areas. The first is a Berkley General. This is a max scent General, or whatever your favorite stick bait is. The key with this bait is you can fish it so many different ways. One of my favorite ways to do it is on a drop shot, and you rig it with a small EWG style worm hook, and you can rig it you're basically rigging it as a Texas rig, so you're hooking it weedless, so you can work that through the grass well. And on a drop shot, you want a longer leader. Like I go with like a 3-foot leader, which keeps this bait above a lot of those grass. But you don't, so I like fishing as a drop shot, but you can also just rig it on a light bullet weight and kind of just pull it through the weeds and work it like you would a normal worm. And it generates a lot of bites that way. It's just a really good all-around bait anytime you're fishing around grass, and it generates strikes. I fish it wacky style with an exposed hook all the time as well. I just have to deal with getting it stuck. Usually when I'm doing that, it's simply you throw it out, let it fall, and at that point you're gonna reel it back in and make another cast. So the bites are coming on the fall. But you need to have some sort of soft stick bait. That's, in my opinion, a must anytime you're fishing pressured weeds. The next is one of my all-time favorite baits, guys. This is a Yamamoto Hula Grub. This is the 4-inch or 5-inch style. Really the only difference between the 4-inch and 5-inch model is the thickness and the kicker legs. This bait you wouldn't think of as a traditional grass bait, but it really, you know, it's really a very versatile bait. But I got started throwing this on deep weed lines in northern Indiana. I talked to a local pro. This is when I was a little kid, and he said this is the bait to use. So I started throwing it and basically forced myself to learn how to use this on weed lines with an exposed football style hook. And you know, you learn how to feather a bait through the grass if you're willing to try to make a bait work. And that's what I did with this bait. And I've since caught so many bass on it. It's pretty ridiculous. But it's got the jig profile, it's got a slow fall, it looks like a bluegill. It's a really, really good bait for working around grass, and it's a super good finesse style bait. You know, the fish, it does not seem to scare the fish. They love it. When they're pressured, it's like a micro little jig, and a little hula grub will get bit. So you want to have one of those. The next, and you guys know how much I love my small swim baits. This is just a 3.3 power swimmer, Berkeley power swimmer. A little swim bait will get bit everywhere you go. The key with this when fishing deeper weeds is your rigging technique. You need to rig it weedless and put a bullet head, you know, or bullet weight above the line. And then you're basically throwing it out, letting it hit the bottom or letting it hit the top of the weeds, and then you're just slow rolling it through the tops of the weeds. But you gotta rig it weedless. And I just recommend putting a bullet weight on your line. Don't peg it, leave it free. You know, put a little EWG style worm hook in here, and you can swim this right through the top of the weeds. It's a great way to get bit. It's a great way to find where the fish are holding in the weeds, because you can cover a lot of water with it. And once you get bit, you can slow down then with these other baits and really pick apart that weed flat. It's also a great bait if you've got kids with you and you're having trouble fishing the weeds with them. You know, they're getting stuck and not dealing with the weeds. It's such a weedless technique that the kids can really bring their bait through the grass as well. So I recommend that. The last is kind of I'm not gonna say it's a secret bait, but it's one, again, that I grew up fishing, you know, also in northern Illinois on the Fox Channel Lakes. And this bait won so many dang tournaments, it's pretty ridiculous, all fishing deeper weed lines. And that is one of the most heavily pressured places that there is. But this little guy, this little 4-inch Berkeley power worm, it's just a 4-inch little worm. I mean, nothing special, just a little twister tail on the back. Guys, a little worm like this is killer. Again, you can rig it with a light bullet weight. I'm talking like, you know, nothing more than about an 1/8 ounce really. You can rig it. Another great way to rig it is just on a slider head. You know, it's got a weighted little head on it, and you can rig it weedless with that. But this bait just catches fish in pressured areas, in pressured grass areas. So weed lines that see you guys fishing it all the time. You put this little worm on, and I'll guarantee you will catch fish. I don't know why more guys don't throw it. I always carry some of these 4-inch power worms in my boat at all times. For instances like that, it's one of my go-tos if I just need to get bit. But it is an absolute killer on the grass lines. That's all I gotta say. It's probably, out of all of these, it's the best finesse bait that you can throw in fishing pressured grass. So anyways, guys, these are my 4 go-to baits anytime I'm fishing weed lines or grass flats that are getting heavy pressure. They will all catch a lot of fish. And you know, it just, a lot of it comes down to, if you can find them with the power swimmer first, you can take these other baits and really just saturate the area and generate a lot of additional strikes. So I hope this was helpful, guys. We're in the summer months. Get out there and fish some weeds, because that's where the fish are. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. A lot of these baits are at the realshot.com. Hit the description. Go into my description in the video, and you can purchase some of these off their website at a discount. Stefan10, use that to get 10% off your order. And yeah, guys, share it on your social media if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. New tips coming out every day.